So this is our first drawing session. We have a scary blank page, but also the almighty ballpoint pen to deal with it. And on this session, we're drawing frogs. I'm just gonna start warming up with some letters up here, trying to stay loose, keep the ink flowing. The ballpoint pen here is probably my favorite drawing tool. It gives you so much control over line weight by using pressure, and it generally feels like it flows very nicely. Alright, let's get started. We're gonna start with trying to define where the eyes go. This way we'll have a point of reference to continue building the shape of the frog. And at this stage we're trying to stay loose and keep the lines kind of light. Let's lock down the second eye right here. Now it's kind of starting to look like the beginning of a frog. Haters will say otherwise. Ribbit over here says haters gonna hate. I think he's right. So this is the first time I'm trying this, and I don't know, I'm having fun. We'll see what happens. Hopefully you guys like it too. Okay, now we're moving down to the right arm. So the fingers here are the first instance where we could really see a little bit of a use of foreshortening and perspective, because I'm not trying to capture the frog from this exact top view, but rather from a little bit of a lower angle, kind of a 3/4 view. The thing with using a pen as opposed to using a pencil that you have to be okay with is that once the marks are down, they're down. You can't really erase them. So there's no going back. Keeps you honest. I think it forces you to just keep going. You can't really worry too much about something you can't fix. These frog fingers down here I think came out a little bit too small, so we're just gonna make them a little longer. Something like that. That's pretty much the basic shape, and now we're gonna use the pressure sensitivity of the pen to make the outline of the frog a little darker. And while I'm doing this, I'm also trying to push and pull a little bit of the edges here to sort of fine-tune the shape. This is where you usually have a few very light strokes underneath that we're now going over with a much darker line. I really enjoy this part because it starts to make the image really pop. The next thing we're going to do is add some shadows with some simple hatching, kind of product design style. I'm going to leave this spot open for some reflected light later on. Our light source, by the way, is coming in this direction. And this is something that's important to define early on, especially if you're going to do shading, because it helps determine where your shadows or darker marks are going to go. I really enjoy this part of drawing because it feels pretty easy. It comes after the hard part, which is capturing a shape that looks convincing. We're just adding some shading and it starts to really make the image come alive. Now that our frog shadows are done, we're going to do the ground shadows, and this is key because it's really going to sell that the frog is on the page. Without it, it kind of looks like it's floating, but with the ground shadows it really looks like it's making contact with the page. Here I'm going to try to add just a very subtle value to the eye, and I'm leaving a couple of blank spaces here that will be light reflections. On this side I'm kind of seeing a little bit of the pupil on the eye, so I'm going to darken that a little bit. And there you have it. That's our guy, Ribbit. So Ribbit over here didn't really like these letters that we made, and he's asked that we do something more interesting. So we're gonna make some nicer letters. I'm gonna space them out under him right over here so that they look like a part of the design. And what I like to do here is kind of figure out how much space each letter is gonna need depending on how many letters I have. So in this case, obviously we have 6. So we'll start with the T back here because this will allow for a little bit more room for error in case we miscalculate the space that we need for each letter. So we'll start here and go backwards. And I'm gonna do some kind of chubby looking letters that's, I think, match the style of the frog. I think Ribbit was right. We needed better letters here. Now we're gonna do one more pass, but much darker. And there we go. Ribbit. He approves. One last request, and this is a big one. Ribbit wants to be green, because frogs are green. Or most of them are, I think. Anyways, I'm gonna use paint markers to give him the color he wishes. I'm gonna use this emerald green to add shadow to the letters. And we're gonna use the same light source where the light is coming from the top right. I'm also gonna outline the entire frog with this color, and I think it's gonna make him look very cool, at least more interesting color-wise. Oh, it looks like we're a little low on paint here. Come on, we can do it. Pasca, if you want to send me some paint markers, I'll take them. I'll put them to good use, I promise. See how this color outline immediately makes it pop so much more. It gives it more character. Now it's a more fun frog. Now I'm going to use some color pencils to give Ribbit a little bit more of a blue-green hue and emphasize the shadows a little more. I'm going to try to do it kind of quickly and not take it too seriously, because then it's not very fun anymore. By adding a layer of this blue-green color, the green becomes much more interesting because it acquires a lot more variety to it. And it gives us this interesting new sort of texture. It's like a forest texture. Here I'm trying to keep most of my color pencil marks horizontal and going in the same direction so that it matches the green background that we've laid out, and so they kind of mix a little bit smoother. Now I'm going to darken up these areas a little here to emphasize the shadows, get a little bit more contrast. Like right here under the eyes and the creases are going to be much darker. Getting some of that green as well on the ground shadows here. And last but not least, some highlights. I'm going to use a yellow paint marker for this final part. Here I'm highlighting most of the left part of the upper torso of the frog because that's where it's sort of curving and catching the light, which is coming from our top right. All of the joints here are also catching a lot of highlights. And there you have it, Ribbit. Thank you, and until next time.